This is a sight people everywhere love to see, a bull elk in his prime, nature at its most magnificent. Many hunters live for the day they might find and take an animal like this.
Now that's an elk.
So that people will experience this sight and sound for years to come, hunting seasons and regulations are in place to protect animals when they are the most vulnerable.
And unfortunately, what we're finding up here these days, and I hate to have to say this, but any critter that spends any time near the road and is seen by a number of people is a dead animal.
That's where this guy comes in.
Black marks to the black mark.
Meet Stuffy the Wonder Elk, a 5-point veteran in a campaign to keep wildlife safe at night.
We'll make him a bull tonight.
Conservation officers built Stuffy so they could move its head by remote control.
And if the animal didn't move, they'd leave. They wouldn't shoot it. We've had several times where, now that we're using the animal that moves, we impart some movement to that animal, and we hear them say, "It moved, shoot it." Okay. Looks like we were ready to go for tonight.
Using the decoy is extremely effective in that when somebody shoots one of these things, it's the talk of the town, at least up here, and the stories of it will rifle through the crowds of hunters and sportsmen pretty quick. It's incredibly embarrassing for someone to have shot one of these things, but on the serious note, it's saving a lot of critters out there.
Fish and Game started using artificial animals in 1989. That year, 25% of the people who saw a decoy would shoot at it.
The more we use the ASA, the fewer number of violations that we had. Dropped to a low in about 1994 of about 10%. Since 94, we've had decreased budgets, decreased number of officers, decreased officer presence in the field, and we're finding those violation rates are going up quite dramatically. Last year, 1996, our violation rate was about 36%. This year so far, 1997, it's been about 39%.
You smell it? Can you smell it?
Elk.
Elk.
They've been here.
It's in the air.
Once the sun sets and hunting is over for the day, officers move in to set up Stuffy the 5-point bull. The season is closed to hunting bull elk in this unit. People have also reported spotlighting and gunshots in this area at night.
We're ready.
We set it up in areas where we've had problems in the past, and we've probably got a higher percentage of poachers using those areas.
Well, it should be set. Again, your average hunter wouldn't even think of taking a loaded gun out at night, when his headlights or a spotlight is on a critter. It's just, and the hunters up here just find it totally unacceptable that someone's out there with a light, with a loaded weapon at night. It's dangerous, and it's also taking a serious hit on the wildlife up here.
We're ready.
The conservation officers retreat into the forest and wait nervously for what comes next.
Anyone will tell you right after that gun goes off, you're not a little spooked, contacting these folks. They'd be lying to if they said they're not a little spooked, because again, we're taking people with felony warrants. They're under the influence of drugs at times. They're intoxicated on something, more times than not. And so we never know who we're dealing with. It's in the dark, and it could be anybody.
319, 315, got one company in standby. They just hit the brakes. Looks like they see it. Okay, they just blew one by. Looks like they may be going around and turn around. Going down the road and turn around. Stand by. Okay, passenger just shot. Passenger just shot. Come out and get him.
Stop your vehicle! Come to the back of the vehicle and put your hands on the back of the vehicle. Very slowly exit the vehicle. Everybody out, hands up.
We're real nervous, and we know they're real nervous. And what's going through my mind is these people have loaded weapons. They're a danger to themselves, and they're a major danger to the officers that are coming in on them. So our first concern is to get those guns down and away from them and in a safe direction.
Do you have any other weapons in the vehicle besides this one up front?
Most shooters know right away
In the
what's
back.
happened,
Okay, just sit
but
tight.
officers go to great lengths to explain what they did and why it's wrong.
Well, nobody told me to stop and shoot at him, so that was actually our fault. And you know, it's easy to tell because it doesn't move at all. It's just, and when he shot it, I go, hey, you missed, and he was going to shoot it again. I'm glad he didn't. Well, that would have been worst.
Okay, Nicholas, again, as Officer Ginger explained to you, you're not going to be, arrested tonight. We're going to.
George Fisher issues the shooter a citation for shooting from a public road, hunting with the aid of a light, and shooting a simulated animal during a closed season and at night.
Okay, let me get you to sign right there. These guys aren't a bunch of, evil, horrible folks. They're just average guys taking advantage of some vulnerable wildlife, and that's probably how we lose the majority of our, poached wildlife in the state of Idaho, is just people taking advantage of a vulnerable critter, and, as you can see, this is highly illegal what they did. And
Yeah, we've been coming every weekend since they opened, and until now we haven't caught anything yet. We've seen a lot of cows, no bulls until this one here was not a real bull. So we'll keep hunting. We really love doing that.
So I think it helps to identify those people, get them into the courtroom, provide some punishment for them, and hopefully from that they will learn a lesson.
In Valley County, fish and game violations end up in Judge Darla Williamson's courtroom. She has a reputation of being tough but fair.
I think the ASA program allows Fish and Game an opportunity to locate and identify those individuals who would poach. Because these people who would shoot the artificial deer are people who would be poaching if this animal was alive.
When the shooter does appear in court, he will lose his hunting license for at least a year and pay a minimum fine of $625. He could also face jail time.
And shot right here. The exit wound on the other side.
If Stuffy had been a real elk, the penalty would be more severe.
First of all, I believe that poaching gives hunting and hunters a bad name. Generally, when we read about poaching incidents, it's during the hunting season. And so I think that causes people to view hunting in a negative manner. Secondly, poaching deprives the sportsman, of those game. And also I think it's important that you give wildlife a sporting chance. And to me, poaching does not do that.
319, 315, we've got one coming in, stand by.
At least 30 cars drove by Stuffy on the Warm Lake Highway. Some stopped to admire him, but most people just cruised on by.
319, they have turned around, headed back towards the ASA.
But before the night is up, another person tries to kill Stuffy.
Okay, passenger just shot. Come out and get him.
Put your hands up, you come to the back of the vehicle, put your hands on the back of the vehicle.
The two hunters are clearly embarrassed for being caught shooting a decoy. George believes shame may be the most effective way to stop would-be poachers.
I've never done anything so stupid.
Okay, luckily in this case it was a stuffed one, and you didn't kill a real elk. If you killed a real elk, you'd be going to jail tonight. So no, I mean it makes and you never feel really good sighting folks, but it's a job that needs to be done, and hopefully they'll tell their friends and a bunch of other folks that, hey, you don't hunt at night. And I don't think they'll ever do it again. I mean, it looks like they learned their lesson. And again, nothing against them personally, but their hunting behavior isn't very ethical at all. 20989. You can see any elk along this highway tonight, the Warm Lake Highway off of Cascade, Idaho, would have been dead tonight. And we feel pretty good that we were here, to stop that. Warm Lake Highway and Gulf Fork Lookout Road.
Both drivers and shooters appeared in a Valley County court November 18th. The judge revoked the drivers' hunting licenses for 1 year. She fined them $229 plus $71 in court costs. The judge revoked the shooters' licenses for a total of 2 years, fining them $384 plus $143 in court costs. One shooter's gun was donated to the Idaho Hunter Ed program. The other shooter donated $450 to the Hunter Ed program and kept his rifle instead. Coming up next on Incredible Idaho, a chilly answer to people who find themselves off target.
That's better. You're back in the 10 ring again.
What does a and a all have in common? They've all been frozen to 300 degrees below zero.
Well, it's kind of hard to fathom that putting something in a freezer was going to improve it. But I seen the actual test results and then seen the reason of why it improves things and realized that it was worth the investment.
Alex McGarry owns the business called 300 Below in Boise. He freezes almost any kind of metal object, even guns. Incredible Idaho set out to uncover why someone would want to super freeze their gun. The journey started at the Blue Arms gun shop.
Good morning.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Need you to check my gun over and take it apart, and there's a new technique. Cryoed.
Gary Arbaugh volunteered his favorite hunting rifle to test what is advertised as deep cryogenic tempering.
It's been a good gun. I've had it for 27 years. Take good care of it.
Betcha, I'll treat it just like I own it.
Before the gun barrel can go through the freezing process, a gunsmith needs to prep it.
What we're looking at here is we're looking at a little bit of rust and a bunch of grease, you know, old dirt and stuff. So this gun probably hasn't been cleaned in a good year or two. So what we'll do is we'll disassemble it, and then I'll soak it and clean it a little bit before I give it to Alex to cryogenics. This gun's already half wore out. If the gun's working proper now, you should be able to get at least a few more years of service through this firearm by having it cryogenics, you know.
Liquid back there and just about.
Alex starts the process by hooking up tanks of liquid nitrogen.
With these tanks, though, they're really not dangerous. You hook your lines, you're making sure you have no leaks, and everything's contained in the processor. So
Alex moves on to assemble items for today's load. Everything from a Harley motor, machine tools, golf balls, and gun barrels.
we're doing two things. We're stress relieving and we're finishing the tempering process. We're actually condensing the molecular structure of any metals that we put in it at a very slow rate, and then allowing them to disperse back through the part evenly, which stress relieves. Okay, for an example, the reason that we do rifle barrels is rifles have, or any other thing that's machined, has stress machined into it. And as it heats up, those stresses will start to make it move. A rifle, after 4 or 5 consecutive rounds run through it, will start to walk. The reason that rifle's moving is because the stress is in that barrel, and when it's heating, it's moving towards or away from whatever stresses are in that barrel. When we stress relieve it, we're relieving all the stresses by realigning the molecular structure. After we're done with it, it will not move.
During the next 18 hours, the program lowers the temperature inside the freezer to a chilly minus 300 degrees Fahrenheit. It keeps it there for several hours, then brings it back to room temperature. All that we have to do now is wait for the results.
If they know their weapon well and they do some tests before and after, they'll see gains in accuracy. It'll clean easier, it won't foul as easy, the barrel will last longer.
The time has come for deep cryogenic tempering to prove itself.
Inch right and you're dead center.
Remember, the gun is supposed to shoot more accurately. This means that 5 shots fired from Gary's rifle will be closer together on the target than they were before the big freeze.
Okay, you hit it dead center.
I'll take that.
That's 225 yards. He basically killed.
Well, I didn't know if it'd ruin it or not. I didn't really think it'd help it any. I was a little skeptical of the process, but it seems to have done something. It's shooting well.
The results are promising, yet we all know the best way to be a good shot is practice, practice, practice.
I'll take that shot anytime.
There you go, good shot.
Heel. Heel, buddy. Yeah, you gotta kind of get up early and get out early and get things pretty well set up. Grab that other Drake there, James. We'll put it right over in here.
Dan Papp is setting up for a day of duck hunting, but this time He's not going to be bringing anything home because today is just for kids.
Okay, put a few down here on this end, so we'll leave a pretty good-sized pocket here.
Youth Waterfowl Hunting Day is a time for experienced hunters to connect with kids who may not have a parent or friend to teach them about hunting birds.
Yeah, just set her down there.
James Davis is Dan's partner and gets his first lesson in setting up decoys.
Yeah, decoys are supposed to imitate the real birds, so what we're trying to do is create small families of a small flock of birds, and then you don't want to set them too close together. You want to make them look like they're contented, but you don't want to space them too far apart either, because it doesn't look like they actually landed together.
Walk up this way.
Once the decoys are in place, teacher and student retreat to the tall rushes.
They'll pretty much be coming from this direction, so I'm going to keep this tall because that sun comes across that side there.
Okay. Waterfowl, unlike a lot of other animals, actually see color. And as a result, they can pick up colors pretty readily, and that's why we wear camouflage so they don't see us quite as easily. And also, they pick up movement quite well. Most waterfowl can see greater than 180 degrees. They see in front of them and behind them as they fly.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little bit of this down so I can see, but not too much. Okay, yeah, that should do her.
Now they wait. But Dan uses the time to cover the basics of shooting a duck in flight.
Remember, butt, belly, beak, bang. So you need to come from behind them on your right and then just sweep past them as soon as you establish just a little airspace. Go ahead and shoot. And that should do her.
As Dan calls in the ducks, James tries to identify them.
Little teal and look like a pintail hen.
Pintail's in front, wasn't it?
Yeah, pintail was in the front. Good observation. Take that one right there. Right. Cross room now, don't stop your gun.
That's probably what's going on with this. I keep stopping.
Let me get it. You got another ship?
When it comes to building shooting skills, Dan likes beginners to use one shell at a time. It's a practice James agrees with.
It's good to start with one shot, because when you have 3 shots in most of the new guns now, you just kind of pull up and just start shooting. And when you only have 1 shot, you have to make it count, because you can't reload fast enough and still get a shot at those birds.
Here comes 2 out front. See them low.
Yeah, what are they?
Right out front, right in face. Drinks on the left. Take them, take them, take them. There you go, he got him. Mark. Mark.
That's good.
Up. Up. Good boy, come here. Good boy, good boy. Good boy, buddy. Easy, easy. Good boy. Here you go, James.
Thanks.
Nice mallard.
Yeah.
Mallard hen. All right.
See if we can go get her a mate.
Yeah, let's see if we can do that. Let's go. Let's go, buddy.
Yeah, what's good about this program is that when the adults come out with you, like in the normal season, they're really concentrated about hunting, but since they can't really shoot, it's just the kids that are shooting now. They get a little bit more laid back, and then it's more relaxing, and you get to have more fun.
It's nice for people to work with kids and show them how to safely handle a firearm and be able to still take birds. And when you're hunting in close quarters like we were this morning, it's really crucial that you do that. And because mistakes happen, and generally when it does, it involves a family member or good friends, and nobody wants to live with that. So there you go, good shot. They're going to be the stewards of our wildlife resources in the future, and if we don't have those people, then who's going to take care of our wildlife? And we need to make sure that the kids are going to be there and that the resources is going to be cared for. Pretty bird. Good job, buddy.
There are more ducks this year than any time since the 1970s. Why? Because they had a good spring. Most waterfowl nest in parts of Canada. This past spring, the conditions were favorable for breeding ducks. In fact, all the spring rains created the best wetland habitat in 20 years. As a result, a record number of birds migrated south this winter. Unfortunately, they didn't come through Idaho. Waterfowl experts say some migrating birds will still come through, but in the meantime, you can still see plenty of resident ducks and geese on Idaho's waters and farm fields.